What up, guys? Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast episode. God knows what number, and nobody really cares, but there's some number for us to categorically put these up in a somewhere on the interweb so you guys can watch them, right?
Yeah.
Today's podcast is, for me, it's going to be a fun one. So, I got asked a question. It's actually been asked a bunch of times, and the question is, like, Chewy, like, what have you learned from jujitsu that has affected your life off the mats? And when people say jujitsu, I'll sort of lump that together with grappling, right? What have you learned in grappling that's changed your life off the mats? So wrestling, jujitsu, so forth. And I've never been able to really answer that question directly on, because I became an adult on the mats. You know, when I started grappling, I was, in high school. Was it 15 years old? And then now I'm 40. So I've been grappling longer than I have not been grappling in my life, right? We've passed that halfway point.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I don't know, like, how it's changed me, because it's changed me in innumerable ways, and I don't know who I would have been without it. Now, I think a lot of the lessons that you get from grappling, you can get elsewhere, other disciplines, but I learned them from grappling. And so what we're going to do today is, I've been collecting a list of ideas for, a number of years. And I eventually want to make like a video on it or something like that. But I figured we would just rap about some of these rules or lessons, if you will, from BJJ that have changed my life or have influenced my life. And I'll talk about how they came to be on the mats, and then how they have affected my life off the mats. And
Mhm.
so hopefully this is interesting for you guys, or you enjoy the podcast. One of the things from talking with you all through Instagram, or getting messages from you, or talking to you in person, or a lot of you that are in my email list, I get my daily email as part of the Chew Crew. A lot of you guys send me messages and you say, man, like, I really like your stuff. And it's more than just jujitsu. Recently I posted, I didn't mean for it to sound grumpy or anything, but I posted a message up on Instagram the other day. And I was, because there's a video with some guy talking about me, and he talked about me as if, this guy over here just says, hey, hey guys, and whatever, makes videos, and anybody can do it, kind of thing, that kind of thing, right? And I don't really care, right? Because I know the truth. Anybody could do it, potentially, but not everybody's going to do it. It's just like jiu-jitsu, right? Anybody can do it, but not everybody's going to do it. But I made a post, and I was like, I'm not just some YouTube guy. I've won lots of competitions. I've helped students do the same. I've built a gym business before YouTube, built a successful gym business, helped other people that I know, both friends of mine, students of mine, and also people that I've worked with client-wise as a coach, help them do the same. I've built an online business. I've helped other people do the same. I've done this stuff a bunch of times. So it's like, there's a lot of people online that are just people that are like, yeah, I want to talk about stuff, and they regurgitate what they've heard versus having any real experience. Anybody can do that now. You can just get on Chat GPT and ask it to tell you something, and you can go spit it out.
Mhm.
But I have the actual learned experience. It's the difference between, like, knowing a jiu-jitsu move exists, being able to regurgitate what you've heard in an instructional, and being able to say, here is the experience that I've learned, and here's all the little wisdom tidbits that help you. Like, for instance, Eugene, you have an amazing loop choke, as an example.
Mhm.
Obviously you've got several moves that are really good, but the loop choke is one of the ones that stands out. You have details about that loop choke that I don't have, because of the way you've used it. Now, I know how it works. I can teach people how to use it, and I have some experience with it, but you have a next level experience because of how much you've owned that skill, right? And so again, you also have that, you're, as a physical therapist, right? You're amazing. So
Thank
someone
you.
could come in and, yeah, they could, like, regurgitate the names of the muscles and how they connect, and so forth, so on. But you're going to have that next level of experience to be like, well, actually, sometimes this muscle seems to trigger this, and you're going to know those little tricks of the trade that most people wouldn't know if they didn't have that same level of experience.
Mhm.
And so anyway, I made this post, and a lot of you guys that replied to it, if you were there, and I also sent this out in my email, sent beautiful messages. I appreciate you guys. A lot of you, like, one person sent me a message of their kid, and they were like, wow, like, this is my kid, and she started training when she was 7, and she started watching your videos, and she found a lot of encouragement to it. And there was a lot of beautiful messages that, again, we're talking about the effects from transcending jujitsu and overwear. And so appreciate those messages. They do mean a lot, because I do these things, and a lot of times it's like a one-way communication. And so the only time I get feedback is if I meet you in person or if you make a comment to me or something. And so when you send the comments, when you send the emails, I try to get back to as many of them as I can, but they do mean a lot. And so I appreciate that. But with that said, I figured we would talk about jiu-jitsu crossing over into life stuff. And again, if you come from a different discipline, if you've delved into some other area of your life and really done something, then you may have come to these same lessons from there. But hopefully either way, you find this entertaining, maybe something useful, and get a few ideas to chew on from your time with us today. Big thanks to our sponsor for helping make this podcast happen, Athletic. You can check them out at Athletic, ATHLETHC, athletic.com, of course. Athletic is a company it's created by jiu-jitsu black belts who, we're looking to, they've made a few different products over the years, and this is one of their newer ones. And this particular product is a sort of a low dose of THC with CBD mixed. So, you're not going to take the mint and be off your rocker like that time when you were in college and you ate too many special brownies or something. It's a very mild feeling, but they formulated different mints to support different functions. They have one called Rebound, one called Flow, and one called Power, which again, Flow, try to get into a flow state. Power, you're getting ready to do activity that's going to require you to be physically exerting yourself, and a Rebound obviously to help relax and get into a more relaxed state so you can recover better. Again, I've used them several times, and often when I will use them, I do feel a difference when I'm rolling, when I use them, because again, I took the Flow one. I was like, let me try this Flow one. And I remember I took it, and I didn't even really think much about it. I just sort of took it and went on my way. And in the rolling session, I sort of hit that state where you're moving through stuff, and I was in a relaxed state with my mind, trying all kinds of weird, funky stuff out, and had a lot of fun in the roll session. And I was like, man, I felt really good for that session today. I was doing some stuff that I don't normally do, and I wasn't really thinking about it. And then I was like, oh yeah, I took that mint. And so again, I like taking them periodically. I don't take them every single day, but I do like taking them periodically, especially like when I know I'm just going to have like a big rolling session, so I can just try to play around a little bit. Mm-hmm. So again, it's worth trying. If you guys have never taken that kind of stuff, again, try it out for yourself and see what you think. Go to their website at athletic.com, ATHLETHC.com, play on words. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu10 for 10% off the order. And again, you support the podcast, you get a cool new product, and see what you think about it. Also, thanks to our buddies over at Roll BJJ.com. They make terrific gear, everything from gis and rash guards and shorts to train in, to t-shirts, hoodies, joggers, fanny packs, anything and everything that you could possibly think of jiu-jitsu related, they make it. And again, it's all terrific, great quality stuff, great designs, great customer service. I'm a big fan of the founder. He's a good dude. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt, a friend of ours. He gets out there and rolls, gets out there and competes, does the damn thing, right? And so I like supporting him, like supporting what he does. He also makes terrific gear that I use for my gym. I wear it every day when I'm training, and I get it made for my students. And so again, if you guys want to check them out, go to rollbjj.com if you want to see what's on there and maybe see if you find something you like. And if you do find something you like and you'd like to save a little green stuff for your time, go to or use the promo code Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. Also, thanks to our longtime sponsors, Charlotte's Web. Charlotte's Web makes a ton of products. Let's see. Everything from CBD. They also have, if you're watching it, they have these different products that use functional mushrooms, like this one, like lion's mane, which is they say it's for focus support. I like taking this one. Anything that I can do to give me a boost with my productivity throughout the day, I tend to be on top of, right? So again, they make a lot of terrific products. They're one of the OGs in the space with CBD stuff, because CBD is not regulated. I don't know if it's regulated anywhere else, but not in America, not regulated. And so it's the Wild West still. They can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. And they did a study years ago where they found a bunch of the different CBD products that were out there on the market were mislabeled, meaning what was in the bottle maybe wasn't represented properly on the label. Sometimes too much, sometimes too little, sometimes, hey, this compound that's in this wasn't even on the label. So again, I like them because they really try to put a strict process to make sure they deliver a good product. And they're really big on actually pushing for legislation to regulate it, because they're like, a lot of these companies who are doing bad stuff, they're going to go out, and we'll still be here because we make a terrific product that we've really put our they really stand behind. And so again, if you've never tried CBD, I always tell people, just try it out and see what you think. It's one of those things where I can talk about it, but until you feel it, it's like jiu-jitsu. Had a new guy come in this morning, and he's a young guy, good athletic, strong fella, burned his damn arms were burned out in like a minute and a half. He's like, oh my God, my forearms, they're just lactic acid, right? Until you feel jiu-jitsu, you don't know. And sometimes it's like that with supplements. You can hear people talk about it, but until you feel it, you don't really know. So again, if you guys want to try it out, it's one of my favorite supplements to sort of throw into the recovery bin as far as supplements go. You can use the website charlesweb.com, and the promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can also go to our website, patreon.com. It's not our website, but our little sliver there on the Patreon. Go to our Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast to support the podcast directly. Just mosey on over there. There's a list of perks that you can check out. Everything from, exclusive content and early releases, all that stuff. But again, the real reason that it's there is for those that want to support the podcast. And for those of you that are current Patreon subscribers, we do appreciate you. We do thank you. And again, if you guys have questions that pop up, or you want to get in contact with us directly as a Patreon member, don't be shy to do so. Get on there, send us a message, and Eugene will get a hold of the message, and we will get back to you or make a video specifically for you or your question, as soon as possible. So again, just letting you guys know that. And again, if you want to check that out, go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast to get details on the perks that we offer. Also, if you guys want to get my ebook called Focus Jiu-Jitsu and get a bunch of other stuff, go to my website at chewjitsu.net/join. And when you join up, you'll get my daily email, which goes through, I wouldn't say just jiu-jitsu, because obviously, as we're talking about on this podcast, it's far more than that. Goes through everything that I think might be useful to you or interesting to you, or just things I think are interesting and useful, and I share them with you. Everything from jiu-jitsu and lifting and recovery to God knows what, books I'm reading, whatever, God knows what, man. It's like sometimes it's just all over the place, right? But it's I think a lot of people enjoy it. I remember one of the emails that I wrote about last year was about how every darn place literally has like music playing now. I don't know if you noticed this. I was talking about this, like I was like, old man, get off my lawn kind of thing. Because there was this weekend we were doing a jiu-jitsu open. I traveled. We get to the Chipotle in the middle of Indiana because I was like, I needed food. So I stopped there at Chipotle. I'm with one of my buddies who came up with me. And the music was so loud in Chipotle, I couldn't hear him. Couldn't talk to him. It's like, what is this, a nightclub? Like, we're at a Chipotle. If you want to have a little music playing, whatever, but it's like, it was just so loud. And then, we get up to Michigan, and then I stopped at this little Starbucks the morning of the tournament just to, read for a little bit before we go to the tournament. And the Starbucks music was so loud. So luckily I had headphones, but I'm thinking like, this music is blaring. So I'm thinking just, good, I'll get off my lawn, whatever. I sent the email, and I had kind of a way of tying it together with jiu-jitsu. But it was funny because so many other people commented like, I'm right there with you. So it sounds like there's a lot of old people out there.
You're old. That means you're over 40 right there.
So with that said, guys, if you want to get my daily email and then get an ebook that I give away that gives you 12 different strategies on supporting your jiu-jitsu with focused training, you can check it out at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN, and get that. Comes with the ebook, comes with a video and some other resources, all for free, and you can unsubscribe at any time. With that said, let's jump into these rules and lessons from jiu-jitsu that have changed my life. These are useful to you guys. And if you have some comments that you would like to share regarding these, if one of them stands out to you, if you just have a thought that you'd like to share pertaining to it, send it to us. You can send it to our email, the Jiu-Jitsu podcast at Gmail, or you can send it to one of our DMs into the Instagram, either mine directly or the Jiu-Jitsu podcast Instagram. Yep. So one of the biggest, probably, I would say this is like one of the biggest game-changing ones for me, is about facing your fears. And the idea basically is simply, fears melt away when you take action. I heard someone else say it in a different way, that the antidote to your anxiety is action. But for me, it's like fears melt away when you take action, So again, for me, just kind of giving you some background on where I come from in case you're new around here. I was jumped when I was around, I guess times are fuzzy, but I was in 7th grade. So it puts me around 11 years old by 16 and 18-year-olds. I got the crap beat out of me pretty bad. And that particular experience left me scarred and essentially terrified of physical altercations. scared, terrified. And I remember when I started wrestling, I really struggled with it. I mean, I just was like very tense and everything, very, very tense, nervous, all that kind of stuff. And I remember when I got into jiu-jitsu, it was still there. I used to be claustrophobic. When people would pin me down, I would tap, all this stuff. But what I found was that through wrestling initially, and then through jiu-jitsu, it only increased, and through MMA even more so, was that I would be so nervous for these things. And then as soon as I stepped out on the mat and did something, was actually doing the thing, the fear just went away. Because the fear is there in the early, is in the front part. It's when you're thinking and you're contemplating and you're trying to go through your head about how this will all work, right? Because there's the unknown. But as soon as you do the thing, there is no fear. There's no time for fear, right? And I remember experiencing that, like, as an example. Here's one of my favorite memories from my wrestling. There was a match that I had one year where my first good year of wrestling, which was my senior year. I wasn't much, I wrestled for a few years, 3 years. And my last year was the only year that was good. You know, I did all right my junior year, but my senior year of wrestling was actually decent. I did pretty darn well. I was going against this guy who was actually ranked in state at the time, and he was pretty good the year before. And I remember watching him the year before and was impressed by him. Then the next year, I'm up against him. So I have this person that I've built in my head as someone that's like good, right? And who has a better record than me and has more experience than me and all this stuff. It's all in my head. And I remember being so nervous about that match. I paced around. I mean, for the whole entire day at school, I was nervous because I knew we were having a meet at our gym in high school. I knew who I was going to be going against. I was nervous for this match, the whole thing. I ended up winning the match. And I remember, like, I did it. Like, I was like, I did it. That was like a big moment for me, because it was like, here I was scared about this person, built this person up. This person's so much better than me, yada, yada, yada. You guys know the negative self-talk. And then I won. I remember getting into jiu-jitsu and having some of these same experiences. I remember going into MMA, being, I mean, absolutely terrified. I would drive around for weeks before the fight, talking to friends, trying to, like, dig myself out of this mental hole, and them kind of giving me, no, man, you're good. You're really good. And I remember I won the fight, and it was like, oh, but it all started back in grappling, which was, it started off with that, from the very moment that I got out there, was just, you just realize that sometimes you will be afraid to the point where you're ready to puke, but it doesn't matter. You just do it. And when you do the thing, the fear melts away. Now, in my life, it's been the same way. Everything that's given me the sort of the heebie-jeebies as an adult, and this is literally how I look at it. I look at it like it's a match. Oh man, I'm nervous about doing this. Well, like, I was nervous about every match I've ever had. I was nervous about, like, quitting my job and going full-time in the gym. Yeah, I was nervous about this. Was nervous about going on a date with my wife. Nervous about this too. Nervous about making a YouTube video for the first time. Yeah, I was nervous about that too, but it's just like a match. Everything's like a match. I just look at everything like that, because the minute you're doing it, the fear just goes away. There is no more fear. The fear is before. And so that was one lesson that was game-changing for me, because it helped me look at the fears that I was having and not be limited by them. And instead looking at them, noticing them, but not letting them take control. And a lot of people, we all know this, allow fear to sort of put guardrails onto what they will or will not do. And for me, it was like, well, I'll notice the fear. And obviously, if there's a real fear, like, hey, I'm going to go, like, walk on a bridge with no safety equipment and hang. Of course, there's stuff like that. But I'm talking about, like, just a lot of times the imagined fears that we have for things. You just do it. It washes away. And so that was something that changed my life and made it much better and helped me accomplish a lot of things off the mats. What about Eugene? What do you think, buddy?
Well, I think for me, it's and I'm going to ask you a question, a follow-up question I want to ask. But for me, a lot of it's the fear of the unknown. You don't know the outcome. You don't know the results. You don't know what can happen. I think not knowing the outcome, it started. I mean, like we've done jujitsu for years. You know, it was funny. I was in the locker room the other day, and one of the white belts was there, and we were just talking, and I was like, "How old are you?" And I asked him how old he was, and I've been training jujitsu longer than he's been alive.
Oh, well, yeah, I've
I
had
was
that.
like, "That's I mean, for
Yeah.
you, probably
Getting old.
way more common for you than it is for me. But still, it's like, you know, you got like a 16-year-old kid or 17-year-old kid out
Mhm.
there, and they're starting jujitsu, and you're like, how old are you, man? But you know, we've done it for so long. It's like something we do, but we change the circumstance a little bit. We add some different stakes to it, right? Like you don't know your opponent in
Mhm.
some cases. For you in that wrestling match, you did know of your opponent, but you knew all the good that they were able to, or how good they were, you know,
Mhm.
how much more experience, all these things. But a lot of it's just like when you start doing the thing, it's like you don't have time. It's action, like you
Yeah.
said. Like you're there's no time for fear. You can't be while you're going. It's like, well, I'm already doing the damn thing, so might as
Okay.
well do the best I can. Um,
You
I,
can't be afraid when you're, like, fighting off a choke,
you
right? You have to
can't.
be in the moment.
You have to be in the moment, or you're gonna lose. And
Mhm.
um, it's always nerve wracking. Like as many tournaments, I know you've done a lot of tournaments. I've done a decent number, and it gets easier. I think you kind of inoculate that fear a little bit. So you realize, like, once you do the thing, maybe even if you fail, you gain something from it. Um, I want to ask you though, do you remember? I know it was a long time ago.
Oh, here we
Do you
go. Old
remember
man
what?
Chewy.
Yeah, it's for all of us in high school that
Yeah.
were graduating 2000 and something, early 2000s. We'll just say
I
that.
was
Um,
2003. What were you,
yeah,
2002?
yeah, 2002. What do you what were you afraid of? Is there something you were afraid of when you were going into that match? And as a of course, in MMA, it's like I think for me, I never fought, but for me, it would be a fear of getting hurt, you know, because the stakes are a lot higher. You can really get injured. You can get killed. I mean, that's happened before in
Mhm.
MMA. But like in a wrestling match in a high school, what were you afraid of? Like, what was the fear going in?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember this. I remember being so nervous about it, and, like, there was a fear of just maybe getting hurt, whatever. Uh, the thought I remember some of the thoughts. I have a for any of you guys listening, I have, like, a silly memory. I, like, lose track of where I put my keys, 20 minutes ago, but I will remember the smallest minute details from just random times in my life, and I
Yeah.
don't know why. Like, it's just I have a silly memory. So one of the memories that I have, I remember, and this is indicative of how I would be the first match. Because after your first match, it's always like then you're just competing. But that
Yeah.
first match of any
Mhm.
tournament, any meet, it's always the worst. I remember it was we had like a kind of like a summer scrimmage, like a summer like exhibition duel. So it wasn't really part of the season.
Mhm.
We were just getting together with some of the other high school wrestling teams, and we wanted to like have these little, sort of mock up matches. And I remember I wrestled this dude from another school, and I remember we're in our gym. We're in our gym, so it's like this is home, right? And I remember going to the bathroom and just in my head thinking, I wish I could be in this bathroom, but like 3 hours later when it's all over. I wonder if I'm going to win. I wonder if I'm going to be
Yeah.
okay. Whatever, that kind of stuff. Now, when it was MMA, it was definitely like, I hope I don't get my face caved in.
Mhm.
But still, it wasn't so much of the fear of that because I'm like, I've been punched before,
Yeah.
I've been kneed before, I've been hit hard, and I'm fine. And with wrestling, it was like I've lost before, I've been beaten before, I've had been slammed on my shoulder and had my shoulder separated before in wrestling. So it's like I don't know what I was afraid of, and even to this day, it's like, and this kind of goes to it, right? Like you never get rid of the fear. And I've talked about this on the podcast before. If you do, it's bad. It's not good because the fear gives you an edge. One of the best wrestlers of all time from America, Kel Sanderson, he was talking about the fear. He was like, "It's God's gift to you because it gets you sharp." Right? When you are in that state before a match or before a competition, before a fight, before something that really gives you that nervous energy, everything else washes away and you're focused. You're so focused on that one thing, and that's a superpower. Right? You're not split. Your 100% focus is there. And so really, it's not about getting rid of the fear. It's about just noticing it. And then you can look at it in different ways. To me, I look at it now as excitement. I'm just excited for a match. My body's
Yeah.
getting ready for it, right? And so it's like at this point, like when I compete, I'm never really nervous in the sense of afraid because I've lost matches. I've done it doesn't matter. I've been hurt before. It doesn't matter. What I'm really nervous about is it's really just not nervous, but just excitement. I'm just like, I'm on edge. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And so I just want to perform well. That's really it. And so now it's if there's any nervousness, it's just to not perform well. But when I was young, I was just nervous about this whole situation of the unknowns, and I didn't really have a clear
Yeah.
understanding as to what it was. So
Yeah, it's for me it's a control thing. If I can't really control, I mean, somewhat you have to control the outcome, but you really, there's so many other variables there. Like there's a fear there when you don't have like full control of the situation. Um, but it does get easier, and I think that the more you do it, I think the more you do it, that's not necessarily the fear goes away, but the ability to harness that fear in a way that is advantageous to you happens. Like, because you've been there before, and you've
yep,
been there before. You've been through the fire and you made it out and you're fine. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's just like sometimes, like we said, we make these grandiose like ideas, like these crazy ass scenarios that probably never ever occur, the minuscule chance of them occurring, but we make them, they sometimes override our thought process, and we're like, this terrible thing is going to happen. Usually it's nothing of the sort.
yep,
And we end up probably better off regardless. We're better after going through that experience.
I agree. So the next lesson rule is that once you've gotten good, you understand the true cost of skill and progress, and you're able to choose your next endeavors more
Mhm.
wisely. So when you've done something, when you've gotten good at something, you realize what it really costs, right? Like so many people underestimate the amount of effort it requires to do anything, right? Like this is why people like they think they can do everything all at once and they get nothing done, right? They just
Mhm.
put too much on their plate. They're not being honest about what that is going to cost them. And you see this a lot in jiu-jitsu where someone wants to get into jiu-jitsu and maybe they're, not putting forth enough effort towards it to get to the skill that they want because they simply don't have the time, right? So they have a bad idea as to what the cost is going to be. Now, going back to it, I remember getting into wrestling. And the first year wrestling, I was a chubby kid, got into it, whatever. Wasn't good my first 2 years. The last year when I got into or when I was going into my senior year, I spent the entire summer lifting weights, running, going to wrestling camps, doing everything that I could possibly do to be more prepared for the next year.
Mhm.
And I had a great year the next year. Huh. So this is what it takes. When I got into jiu-jitsu and was competing, I was training as much as I possibly could, 5 to 6 days a week. When I was, in my prime physically, I would say in my 20s and stuff like that, late 20s, when I had the prime as far as recovery goes. I mean, I was training almost every day a week. Rest days were kind of like a occasional thing.
Mhm.
And sometimes the training wasn't super hard, but it's like I might just like lift weights or something. But I was training almost consistently, at least 6 days a week, maybe one rest day. Maybe
Yeah.
not the smartest idea, but that's what I was doing. And I remember, like for instance, I wanted to take my game to the next level, brown belt to black belt. Was trained with some of my now coaches and friends down in Nashville. Learned from them and was like, all right, I got to step my game up and put more effort into. I was coming in and drilling earlier and doing all kinds of stuff. When I got into the business, it's like, all right, like I've got to get to it. Like yesterday, I had one of my guys who's going to work as an assistant for me. He came down here to my office and I'm training him to do some of the stuff for me. And he's walking around looking at all my books and the shelves and everything else. And he was asking me, he's like, how much do you read? I was like, I don't know, anywhere from between usually an hour, sometimes an hour and a half a day at least. I could just squeeze it in, get up early, do whatever. And he said, how long you been doing it? I was like, I don't know, like 15 years, 16 years. Because it was like I got into the gym business and I realized I didn't know anything. So I was like, I
Mhm.
gotta learn. So you're just grinding and then putting stuff into action and you're going back and forth, learning, taking action, so forth. And so for me, like getting into grappling, that first season where I got good and I had learned from like what it really takes. I'm like, okay, so anything that I want to get good at, I really have to get focused and I have to put forth a tremendous amount of effort. And I have to stay focused on it for, the entire week for months and years at a time. There is no like I get to like dabble with it here and there if I want to be really good. If you just want to be okay, that's fine. Now, with like horse riding is something I do for fun. And when I get into horse riding, I have no illusions that I'm going to be a world champion horse rider. I do it a little bit here and there. It's fun. It's enjoyable. Like that's what I do it for. I'm not trying to be super competitive with it. And I say this is because anytime I get into something, I know what the requirement is if I want to be really good at it versus and do it for enjoyment and relax. And I think it's important because too many times people get into something and they try to go full force into it, but they're half cocked. You know what I mean? Like you can't give it your full effort. And it's not to say that that's wrong. That might be all that you can give it to. So some people come into jiu-jitsu and they're trying to be the best guy in the room, but they're training 2 days a week. Sorry, it's not happening. You can get good. You can get skill. But are you going to beat the person that's training 5-6 days a week? No, unlikely. Right. So again, it's not to say that there is nothing wrong with that. Is if that is what you can do. Right now, I think there's still a top end to it. I think sometimes you can get diminishing returns from training too much and not training intelligently. But at the same time, if you're putting in a lot more effort, a lot more time, it's just the way it is. Like someone like, for skills, like, whatever skill you decide to get into, there's only so much bandwidth you have in a day. Right. So like, I don't have the time to like master so many other things. Right. So for instance, in my business, there's a lot of things that I don't do. And it's not out of sheer laziness. It's because I can't possibly do everything in a day and I can't be good at all these other skills that other people are good at. They've taken time to master. So I'll have to delegate this to them. I'll have to get their help on stuff. But again, I think that when you do something and you get good at it, and I learned this from grappling, you start to learn what the real cost of getting good at something is. And then when you go into things, you sort of choose, am I going to be good at this? Like really good? Or am I getting in this for fun, enjoyment, or just dabbling a little bit? And it's good to make that distinction. Because, if you're getting into something thinking you're going to be like the best at it, but you're not really giving it that full attention it requires, then it's better to shift it in your mind as, oh, this is my dabbling little thing that I'm doing. And, if I'm not the best at it, that's okay. Right. So, that's something I learned in jiu-jitsu. It's been very useful to me as I've like gotten into other things. And, as an example, I remember years ago, there was a really cool opportunity that was given to me where I would be able to do announcing, like commentary for an event, a jiu-jitsu event, and they were going to pay me money, fly me out, the whole deal, treat me very well. And initially I said yes. And then I sat down and thought about it for like 10 minutes. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I can't say yes to this. I don't have the time. And then the time that it's going to cost for me to sharpen my ability to commentate, because like commentating is not easy. People like to rag on commentators and things like that. It's not easy. It's a skill you have to develop to be able to watch something and on the fly, you're thinking of like information to share or ideas or whatever it is. And so I was like, I'm going to have to brush up on the skill. I don't have that time. So I called him back and said, hey man, I'm sorry. I can't do this. No offense to you. I love the opportunity. I wish I could. I just don't have the time. And so that was an example of where an opportunity was given to me, but I knew like the opportunity, just the amount of time it would require to develop that skill just wouldn't work for me.
Yeah. I think you have to pick things that align with your goals or that, maybe like support the things you already do. For example, the gym, right? That was a necessity thing. You got to learn how, gym works and how a business functions, paying your tax. I mean, just simple things, right? And some stuff you're going to learn a little bit about. And then like, I don't know, tax information. I'm going to send that to my accountant and let them kind of control that stuff. I think of it as like, if you're someone in jiu-jitsu, like, and you're trying to add on to your game, add skills or techniques, you need to probably go with a skill set or a technique that kind of lines or like flows into your game in some way. If you're going something out of left field that completely is, nothing that you do. I mean, in jiu-jitsu, yes, like you should have a good knowledge of most positions and techniques. Like obviously we saw the perfect example is the leg lock game, right? You see all these guys with incredible leg locks coming in and they're just trashing all these experienced high-level black belts that didn't have much leg locks experience at all. And so you got to brush up on that. I mean, do you want to be a leg locker? Are you going to reinvent your game? Or are you just going to get good at maybe defending and working your way around them, pulling people into the game that you play? You can't. And the thing with YouTube and, instructionals, there's so much information. It's like we have the opposite problem of now, like before you couldn't get enough information, right? It's like
Right.
everything was so secretive.
Hmm.
Now it's just like you have so much. It's like you almost are spinning your wheels trying to figure out, what's going to be beneficial to learn. But yeah,
Yeah.
like
Now you've got a glut of information.
too much. And it's just like having, you know, you go in, you buy all these books or something, you get like a great deal on books, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to read this one, and you end up reading nothing, or read a little
Hmm.
bit of that one. And, it's just like, it's too much. And you have to, obviously, skill acquisition costs time. And you got to weigh, is that time worth giving? Is it something that's away from jujitsu and you want to be an excellent jujitsu athlete or practitioner, like, learning this other skill, like for you being a commentator. I mean, you know how to freaking look into a camera and talk, dude.
Sure.
That's a skill you have developed, and it works within your whole jujitsu ecosystem, right? It's
Yep.
like bringing people into your world, but you doing commentary, yeah, they could bring some people in, but it's like a totally different skill set, right? That's not like you're having to, like you said, you have to watch what's going on, break it
Mhm.
down in a way that's digestible to all kinds of people. And
Mhm.
that's a hard thing.
And
Like,
you've got to be entertaining while you're doing it,
yeah,
because it can't just be like he's going for an arm bar now and then he's switching
yeah,
off to. I mean,
yeah,
it can't be that. Like, you've got to be on.
yeah. And
And there's like, again, it goes back to, well, I don't want to take so much more time away from my students.
it's
I don't want to take away
time.
time from my videos, my wife, and my kid. Just too much stuff.
There's a hierarchy there. Like, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? That's the thing. Someone like BMAC, Brandon McCatherine, I love listening to his commentary
He's
because
got
it's like
great commentary.
it's his flavor, it's
Mhm.
his kind of country accent, it's kind of his little, like, it's BMAC when somebody's commentating, you can tell it's him, obviously, for how he speaks, but also just he's got his own flavor to it, and he's developed that, and you can listen to him over the years doing this commentary, starting at the kind of smaller gigs and doing PGF commentary for his own show, and then starting to go to CJI and all these
He
combat
did like
jujitsu.
Eddie Bravo. Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
Yeah, dude.
the
And
combat jiu-jitsu and stuff.
yeah, and it's a skill he's developed. He's a phenomenal teacher and great, like, explaining things. I think it's just you know a good fit for him. But like, you've got so many other things that you do, right? And you're so active on the mat still. You're there pretty much every day at the gym. It's
Yeah.
hard, right? And then having young kid, that's hard to step away. It's hard to step away from family like that. And I get it. That's for me too. It's like, oh man, I would love to work with these athletes to do this thing and travel, but it's like, this it's not in the cards, because I think
Mhm.
the juice is not worth the squeeze for me there,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And that's okay. But knowing what your goals are, I think, is really important
Yeah, you
before
gotta
you
know what
just
your goals are
dive in.
and just know
Yeah.
you can't do it all.
I wish you could, man. And it's like you realize as you get over 40, you like realize maybe you're not quite on the downhill slope yet, but physically you're starting to feel. And I think when you physically feel that time's kind of starting to pass, it makes you realize how valuable time is.
Well, and, I think also, as you get older, you get a little bit more, and this kinda goes to the next idea we'll share in a second. You start to know your limits, right? Like,
You got to know your
you
limits.
start to know and you respect your limits, because when you're young, like, you think you can do everything. You think you can just tackle everything, and the reality is you can't, and the sooner you learn that, the better. But, if you eventually get old enough to where you're like, "Okay, I have to back off a little bit because I can't do all these things." And as you get older, you start to learn that in a more profound way, because you start to get some serious feedback from your body, which gets to the idea I got from grappling, which is the importance of healthy habits. Now, again, I don't think this is profound information, but it's worth talking about, because, when we get into it, how many people live unhealthy lifestyles? They know what to do. You've got ChatGPT, you've got the internet telling you what to
Mhm.
do. You go stop eating fast food, drink more water, go for walks, lift weight. You got the blueprint. Why don't people do it? Why do people continue to do the wrong things that they don't want to do, but they keep doing them anyway, right? There's lots of reasons, but I think one of the things is that grappling gives you an immediate feedback with what you do outside of the gym. You feel it. And I think the feeling is important, because a lot of times with humans, you can tell us one thing, but until we have a feeling to associate it with, it doesn't really mean that much to us.
Mm.
You can look at jiu-jitsu and respect it, know that it's cool. You feel it, you're like, wow, this is different. You could think that you could box, and then you get in there and do jab drills, and you get punched in the face one time, and whoa, that's different. You could acknowledge that someone has an injury, and oh, that looks terrible, whatever. But then until you have that injury yourself, you're like, wow, this sucks. You have empathy, you have felt it now. And so when you go to grappling, you have a feedback for immediately what you did outside of the gym. For me, going back to it, this started off when I was in high school, because in wrestling, I started to realize if I ate a certain way, because back then I remember I was a young guy and I got online in a website forum. And originally I was asking him about steroids. I was like, hey, what steroids do I need to use to lose weight, whatever. And, luckily some nice older fellas, were like, dude, you're not using steroids. Don't be a dumbass. Here's a diet, really basic. Just eat these foods. At your age, you'll be fine. Try this out. And that's what they sent me. And they gave me a workout plan and a diet and sent me on my way. And I lost a bunch of weight over the course of the summer. Going into my senior year, and felt pretty good. And then as I got older, I continued to constantly start to like play around with habits. And as I've gotten older, like in my 30s, I really got into this where, I noticed if I ate certain foods, like I don't eat any sort of dairy products before training. I don't like eating dairy much anymore because COVID changed the way that dairy tastes to me. So things that I used to like Greek yogurt smells like a wet dog. And cheese doesn't really smell good anymore. I don't even like the taste of cheese much, but
You're
I don't
lucky.
eat but I don't eat
cheese.
any dairy products before training because I just noticed I felt sluggish. I noticed what foods made me feel good. I noticed what habits made me feel good, like getting enough sleep, not drinking a whole lot of alcohol. I remember one time getting drunk with my friends when I was in my early 20s, and then it might have been like 19 or something actually at the time. And then the next day, my coach called me up, and we were dojo storming a gym, and I felt terrible during my rolls. I was like, well, I'm not drinking, and I didn't drink for like another 5 or 6 years. So again, it was this immediate feedback that I got to support the habits that I was trying to make. And I think it's one of the more powerful lessons that a lot of people get from grappling, because, your doctor comes in and shows you some blood work. Oh, hey man, your cholesterol is a little high. This is that. You don't really think about it. It's just numbers on a friggin' piece of paper. But when you go into the gym and you're sucking wind and you feel terrible because you ate a cheeseburger right before class, it gives you a good like, hey, maybe we should change this. And that's something that really impacted me over my life. And it's been very helpful for me for living a healthy lifestyle. Like my life is very regimented with my sleep and my diet and everything else because I feel good. It's not because I'm trying to be regimented that I get some sort of kick out of doing that. Or I'm like, you can kind of look in my office in the back. It's pretty, it's organized to a degree, but it's cluttery. Like it's like my books and stuff are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's me as a person. I'm not super like regimented with most of my things, but I'm regimented with the way that I live my life in certain areas because like I know that if I go to sleep around the same time, I feel great. I know that if I eat these same foods before training, I feel great. I know that if I don't drink, all the time, I feel great. I just notice these things. So for me, it becomes well, why would I change anything if I feel good? Like a lot of times when you talk to people about dieting, they struggle to diet, which is understandable, right? Especially if you've eaten a certain way. For me, it became, I don't even struggle with it because I feel good. So if I eat this other food that I know isn't going to make me feel good, like some junk food or cakes or whatever, and I go to train and I feel terrible, then like there's no real desire to eat it. And again, that's just me. So again, I associate that feeling with it. And so I think that's one of the coolest things that grappling's given me is the ability to have a sensation, a feeling with what I'm doing off the mat, because everything that you do off the mat affects who you are when you step on the mats. And I find that it tends to help people put their body in better alignment. The habits that they do in their body, their life tend to improve because of the feedback they get. Again, that's what I got for grappling. I know that a lot of people do, but just sharing that one for you.
So you shared a couple of points I think were pretty important. One is when you're younger, your body can withstand and work around a lot of bad stuff. It can run on bad fuel, can run on, less maintenance, right? All those things that are just, your body's just more resilient. And when you get older, you realize, well, maybe I don't have a lot of those your body can't accommodate or acclimate for a lot of those things. And so you decide like, how do I feel that way again? Or how do I at least feel good on the mats? And jujitsu's, I don't care what everybody says, jujitsu is hard. It's
Oh, it's very
hard
hard.
on your body. It's mentally hard sometimes, if you have a really tough roll or tough training session, it's hard. And I think that when you said why, you asked the question of why do people choose these other things, like these make bad decisions with food or whatever else. I think part of it is they're not used to doing hard things. So they have always kind of taken the easy way around. This is one idea. One
Yeah.
idea. So it doesn't have to be right. They've taken the easy way to do things. Well, it's like what do I do? If if I, for example, if I have diabetes, well, I don't have to worry about eating well. I'll just take this medicine and it'll fix that.
Yeah.
It won't. It'll work for a little bit, but your body's struggling. It's not doing the things it needs to naturally do to keep yourself healthy. And I've seen that in, a lot of people and family members, like people that I've worked with before, just like that they don't feel like they don't have contrast of feeling good. They don't know what it feels like to feel good. Like you have contrast because you train jiu-jitsu and you're like, man, I did some stuff I shouldn't have done and my body felt like absolute garbage. And jiu-jitsu was harder, way harder. Jiu-jitsu is hard enough, but now it's way, way harder for me. And it wasn't as fun probably. It's really hard. It's not always as fun. You don't enjoy yourself as much. You're really grinding to get through the session. And,
well, especially feel like if you ate something like there was a time where I ate some food and I felt like I was about to poop myself. Not a lot of fun to train when you're feeling like you're about to, when you got mud butt because you ate some bad food, and I want to say something like, so when it comes to food, I think, and this is something that a lot of people don't really think about. And I mean, this is something I struggled with because I was overweight. You don't think about the way that you use food to cope.
Yeah.
Right. So like having a son who's a toddler still, right? Like I watched how attached he was to a pacifier. Right. And you're like, whoa. Right. Like, I mean, marbles lost if the pacifier, whatever. So
it's a safety thing, right? It's like comforting. It's comfort.
It's comfort. Right.
Yeah.
And so you think about that. Everybody's got a pacifier. You got a pacifier. I've got a pacifier, but it depends on what our pacifier is. For me, my pacifier is literally working out. It soothes me. I go lift weights. It makes me feel better. I go train. It makes me happier. Or maybe it's reading a book. I have different pacifiers that I like to use. Right.
Yeah.
Some people's pacifier, and mine was for a long time, was like, you have a bad day, you eat like shit. You go eat some bad food because that makes you feel better for that moment, right? But it's so cheap. It's a cheap pacifier because it makes you feel better now, but not later. And I think that a lot of times when people go into it, one is they don't realize how much they use food to cope and how much it's for their stress. They have a bad day, food, whatever. So there's that. And, maybe too, it's kind of another lesson is that when you, going back to me with the grappling, doing the stuff that I did and accomplishing the things that I did through grappling, it gave me like this sense of control, this sense of power. Like I am in the driver's seat to some degree. I can't control everything, but I can control a lot in my life. Like I actually can do things. I am my wrestling coach would always say, you're the master of your own destiny. What are you going to do? He was a self-made dude and basically, did some stuff and it didn't come from much and made something with nothing. Right. And so for me, it's that, right. You are the master of your own destiny. You can take control. You can change things. And I think you have a couple things going on for a lot of people. They don't really appreciate how much they use food as a coping mechanism. And they don't even think that they can do it. Right. Because they've never crossed through that barrier of like doing something that they didn't think that they could do and they did it anyway and they accomplished it. Because when you do that, then it's game changing, because then it's like, oh, even if you second guess yourself, it doesn't really matter, because if you keep doing this thing, more than likely you're going to do it or you're going to get close to doing it.
Yeah.
If it's a realistic goal. and you'll be surprised at what you can accomplish. And so that's another idea there, but that's something that's very helpful. And I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of people struggle with food. So I'm not trying to criticize you guys if you're having trouble with food, because everybody's got their problems. Everybody's got their own dysfunction. But the food is a big one in our country. And I think it's for a couple of those reasons. They've also, made the food more addictive too. There's that too.
Sure.
But I think it's the coping stuff.
Yeah, it's emotional. Food's emotional. Like, we use food to celebrate, right? We use food for so many different. When we're sad, we eat. Some people eat. When we're happy, we eat, right?
Celebrate, yeah.
I mean, it's for both, and it's like, but the beautiful thing is, like, when you do have a little bit more of I want to say, just, I don't even know if the right way to say is a controlled diet, or we'll say a specific diet, a healthier diet.
Well, you eat with intention.
With intention.
Right, because you're eating for a specific purpose. And so if you decide to eat a certain way, like let's say if you're going to go eat ice cream, you make the conscious decision to eat ice cream versus you're emotionally pulled to it, or you eat it just out of habit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's more enjoyable, right? Because it's not something that you kind of like take for granted. It's like, man, this is really a treat. Like, this is something I get to, and it could be something, maybe you celebrate after a big tournament, you accomplish something big, whatever, that's fine. But moderation's the key too, right? You got to have some kind of moderation. You can't, associate. Well, you can, I guess, but like, it's just hard you have to separate that emotional component of food and like how you feel. Like, I mean, those things, but a lot of people have that. And you're right, it make food more addicting. And it's sometimes bad food or unhealthy food is more easily accessible. It's sometimes cheaper. Doesn't require a ton of effort.
So I would say I hear that the only places I feel like bad food is more, and I don't want to say bad, but food that's probably not in alignment with most people's goals of being in shape and being healthy. Foods like that where they're more accessible. I feel like, maybe if you're traveling, right, you're going up to the gas station, but if you go to a grocery store, like there's tons of food there, like and it's usually cheaper. Like if I go to the grocery, the only time the bill's really like where I go, man, that's a lot of money, is if I go and buy a lot of packaged crap.
Sure.
And I don't say packaged crap, but like we don't buy a lot of crap, but any packaged goods, because I can buy like sweet potatoes, giant bags of rice. Like you can get like some even frozen veggies for pretty cheap sometimes. Like all that stuff's pretty cheap. It's like, like we're going to be traveling, and so I wanted to get some other snacks for Jess and the kiddo, and so like there's some extra snacks in there, and got some popcorn and things like that. It's like it was expensive because it's all expensive because it's all packaged. But like if it was our normal bill with normal food, meat, all that, it's not that bad. And so, I think it's sometimes more accessible. Like if you're traveling, or, if there's a gas station, or, you're on a flight and they're basically, hey, do you want a cookie? But I mean,
what are my options? Right.
Right. But like, fruit's not that expensive. Fruit's cheap. You can get plenty of fruit. I mean, you can get fruit. You can get an apple for the same amount of money that you spend on a candy bar. It's just about the choice you decide to make. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Accessibility. It's easy, man. Fruit. I go pick it out, maybe wash it, do all this stuff, maybe peel it. Right.
I suppose
I'm just gonna open this bag and eat it.
It just goes to the fact that, like, when you think about food, it's just, if it's fat and carbs together, our bodies are not wired to not love that. Like, our bodies love fat and carbs together. It's there's nothing in nature other than like milk that has fat and carbs together in any real existence. And that is food is designed to do one thing, and that's make you grow. Yeah. Everything else in nature either has fats and protein, or carbs, but it does not have fats and carbs together.
It's delicious though. Yeah. But you got to eat for your goals. That's the most thing. And I feel like I wasted so many years of like working out, because I try to consistently work. I'd go through periods of kind of not working out as much, but because I didn't have my diet dialed in, I would go to the gym and push myself in the gym, but I didn't know the right stuff to do. I didn't know how to eat for my goals. Yep. And I feel like I wasted so much time and so many hours in the gym because I didn't fuel myself properly. And so I think that anybody can do it. I remember before I started with Eli, I was nervous as shit. I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. This is too much. I can't do it. And thank goodness for my wife. We kind of did it together. We did the first round of like working with Eli. We did it together, and it was helpful because, we kind of worked as a team, ate the same foods, just different quantities, and it worked out awesome. And now it's just how I eat. It's how I do things.
Next lesson or rule, which again, these are all pretty straightforward, I think, today, is the power of repetition. So early on in wrestling, I found magically, it's crazy how this works, that the takedowns that I drilled the most were the most effective. So I remember I started getting pretty good with a single leg, and I really started just hammering the single leg. I would stick around a little bit longer, drill it more after practice, that kind of thing, just getting extra reps in because I was trying to work it. During live wrestling, we would use it. Go to tournaments, it was hitting all over the place because I was working it constantly. By the end of my wrestling time, I had, essentially 3 moves that I could do really well. I had a good single leg.
Mhm.
I had a pinning combination, a hammer and a half that I would run constantly. And then I had an escape. I had a really good, basically just standing up escape. And I hit those all the time in matches, all the time in the gym, and did great with them, right? And so I just hit those moves all the time. And again, I was practicing so much. When I got into jiu-jitsu, similar thing. I remember very early on, as a white belt, I was trying to figure out my game, trying to develop it to some degree. And I noticed that I always got to side control pretty well. I took a liking to passing the guard. And so I was trying to figure out finishes. And I remember me and my buddy, we got this instructional, and we were working kimuras from the instructional, and I just hammered kimuras constantly. We would go to our house, and I would do my mom's house in the basement, and I would, we would throw the mats down, which we pretty much kept down all the time. I would get some reps in with the kimuras. We would do this like every day for weeks, and I remember I would go to the gym, and guess what? I was hitting kimuras. Imagine that. I remember going into it, and going with my coach, or I go into the gym. I remember my coach coming up to me one day. He said, because there was a particular Kimura setup that he had never shown me. And
Mhm.
he's like, "Hey, where'd you learn that?" He's like, "You've been watching those DVDs?" And I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I've been watching those DVDs, right?" And they were DVDs back then. There was no streaming video.
Yep.
We still use the term DVD sometimes, but we're like, you know, it's not
Yeah.
a DVD. It's a just streaming video. But I did, and I did the repetitions. I would do the repetitions and drills with my buddy, go through the movements, go in the gym and practice, back and forth, right? Repetition, both in the form of initially static drilling, and then with like, he would give me a look and he would move around. I would try to catch it. And then I would go do like full live repetitions where I would literally hunt for that one move over and over again. And I've done it with everything. And again, it's this idea that repetition, that's where the magic is. You got to put your reps in. Now you can start to like figure out, well, the reps, live reps, static rep, what, just do it, right? There's going to be some value into it. I think that obviously, you have to graduate from pure lifeless static drilling when the person's offering no
Right.
resistance. Like even when you watch like high level wrestlers that do a lot of repetitions, their partner is moving through this, and there's different drills that they'll use. But however you do it, you're getting reps. Even if that just means that you go to the gym and you're just trying to get, like, you're rolling, and you go into the open rolling situations and you stay focused. This is one of the ideas that I share in my Focus Jiu-Jitsu ebook that I give away for you guys for free. So, basically, so you pick out that move, you pick out the submission, and then you go to the gym, and just during open rolls, you pick the same thing and go after it every single time. Shameless plug. If you guys want to get the ebook, it's at my website, jujitsu.net/join. You can get my daily email, and then you get the ebook for free. But again, with the strategies there, you're just, getting reps in. And so when as I got older, it literally was just that.
Yeah.
If I wanted to get better at doing videos or podcasts, it was like, all right, we're just going to have to put the reps in. Like that's just part of the process. You get the reps in, you get as much feedback as you can. What seemed to work, what didn't work, let's do it again. With our competitions that we run, the Jiu-Jitsu Opens, what worked, what didn't work. With my camps that I have at my gym, like we've changed them slightly every single year to try to make them slightly different, make them better. Right? Everything's about reps, and then feedback, and then tweaking, right?
Yep.
But you got to put the reps in, you got to get the time in. You can't jump to the front of the line and be the best without putting in your reps. And again, this kind of goes back to these are really simple ideas. It goes back to the idea that when you understand the cost, like, you just understand that there's going to be a lot of repetition required to get the skill, to get the thing, the desired outcome that you want. And so for me, a lot of times whenever I get into something, as an example, my daily email, I started writing it in 2018, literally this month, 2018. So it's July of 2025 recording this. So we're at like what, 7 years?
Mhm.
7 years, Monday through Friday with almost no fail, sometimes on the weekends. I remember when I got into it originally, like I don't think I was all that great at it. I look back at some because I've got a file that has all of my writing in it, right? And I look back at some of the old ones. I'm like, ooh, that's a little rough, right? I've gotten much better at it, but I just sort of knew process wise it was going to require reps. When I was trying to hit certain techniques in competition, reps. When I was trying to do certain stuff with the business, it was like, what's the thing, the action that I need to do, like as many times a week as possible, that's going to enable me to do well, and then I get reps with that thing. And so I think for you guys, it's like probably the same idea, right? Whatever you do in life, you have to get some reps in with it, and you have to do it. Even like being a dad, being a husband, practice. You got to have some practice, right? Maybe you maybe get a little short with
Mhm.
your wife about something, and you're all right. Next time we're in that situation, I got to do better, whatever. Or with your kid and you're playing with them, maybe get a little short with them. And next time, all right, it's all reps, it's all practice. And that's how I kind of look at everything, right? So like anytime something goes a certain way, I'm like, all right, like I'll fix this next time. Like I remember there was one day with Luca, he was being a little grumpy butt about something, just cranky, and I got a little short with him. And I remember like, wasn't bad. He went to sleep that night. We reconnected, had bed and bath time and stuff. It was fine. But the next morning, I was like, all right, I'm ready. As soon as he gets up, I'm ready. I want to redo this. I want to get another rep of in that same situation that we were in last time, so I can adjust and fix it. So again, it's all reps.
Yeah. I mean, it's like those reps are gonna start with some failures. You're gonna realize you're gonna look back and what can I do different?
Mm-hmm.
Why did this happen? How do I adjust it? How do I do something different? And I think in jiu-jitsu, a lot of the reps is for me is not chasing the shiny new object, right? Like, ooh, a new technique, let's go to that way. And not maybe if I'm working on something specifically to work on it, maybe it's not the technique maybe the technique was shown 2 weeks ago. Do I still have the capacity and the intention to work on it even when we're working on something else in class? So like I think just the reps are important. It helps with timing. You discover where your failures are, where your shortcomings are, and then you start to kind of build off of that. You get a timing, right? Like a smoothness. Like you
Mm-hmm.
see like a really good back take. Like you have a good back take that there you got one off of a pass. I forget. Is it from a truck? Is it the
Truck, yeah,
truck one that you do?
yeah,
Yeah,
truck
you
one.
do it off a
It's what
truck
it's a stack
stack
pass to truck.
pass. So when you do that, and like we've seen you do it like, I mean, hundreds of times. And it's just it looks effortless when you do something with skill and like very high level of skill. It looks like you're not really trying, and the timing is smooth, right? There's no
Mm-hmm.
like jerky movements, all just a nice smooth flow. And that's well, I remember watching one of the first times I really saw that at a very high level. Like we had a Hanato Tavares come to like a seminar or something years ago, and he was doing some kind of like a flow rolling thing, and he was doing some techniques, and he looked I remember, I'll never forget. I was like, God, for an old guy, man, he's so smooth with it, like the way he moves, and he's agile for an older grappler,
Oh yeah,
anyways. But
great.
I remember watching him move, and I was like, damn. That's some skill right there. I was probably a white or blue belt at the time, so everybody amazes you. That's not a white or blue belt, but like, it was just so cool
No,
just
but
to
he
see
he
that.
he was an exceptional mover. Like he moves really well. Like when
Yeah,
you watch someone
yeah,
move smoothly,
yeah.
exceptionally well.
I remember, but just it was cool to see a high level like someone like that just in person as well, like to watch him do that as well. But yeah, that's years and years of reps, and
Mhm.
sometimes doing those reps isn't fun, can get tedious and get a little boring. So maybe that's where you make little games for yourself, right? All right, I'm going to try to hit this technique 3 times. That's my goal. Make little tiny goals for
Mhm.
yourself, and that's something that's kind of that book Flow. I was listening to like that book today. I've read it
Mhm.
before. I'm kind of just going back to it. And he talks about making this little mini games, almost like you work at a certain job and it's a little tedious, so you make little games. Can I do this faster? Can I do it more efficiently? How many can I do
Mhm.
today? That kind of thing. So make those little goals for
Yeah.
yourself if it's a technique in jujitsu or something else that you want to do.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully you gleaned a few ideas from it. Maybe you took some ideas from it. Maybe nodded your head and said, yeah, I've done the same thing too as well. But again, as always, thank you guys for being here on the podcast. We do appreciate it. If you guys have any comments or things you'd like to share, because there is no comment section in a podcast. Well, there is in the YouTube version. You can drop your stuff there. But if not, if you're listening to it on like, an actual podcast like Spotify or Apple podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts, you can send us a message on Instagram at, the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, or email jiu-jitsupodcast@gmail.com. Big thanks to our sponsors for helping make this podcast happen. Athletic, ATHLETHC.com. They're athletic mints. They are CBD and a low dose of THC. So like sort of a microdose. So not much, enough to give you a feeling, but not enough to, make you start, hearing sound or hearing colors or seeing colors or whatever it is that people say. You're not going to be tripping like you would be if you ate a big batch of special brownies. It's just enough to help put you in a particular state. They have 3 different formulations that they've come up with. One is called Flow. Obviously help you get in the flow state a little bit better. One is Power, which is formulated around exercise. The other one is Rebound, which again, think about rebound, we're trying to talk about recovery. So get useful tools in the supplement tool bag. I like them. I take them here and there. It's not like an everyday thing for me, but like I don't take them like a multivitamin or something like that. But I definitely like them for certain training sessions throughout the week. And so I'll pop one, let it dissolve in my cheek, and then go to the practice. I feel like it helps me get into a more relaxed state during my training. I feel good with them. I don't have any sort of groggy after feeling or anything like that. So if you guys have never tried any of this kind of stuff before with a little bit of the THC and CBD together, there's a synergistic effect of the 2 compounds. You can check them out at Athletic, ATHLETHC.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu10 for 10% off the order. Thanks to our buddies over at epicrollbjj.com. If you guys have never been to their website, roll on over there and check out some of their gear. They've got everything from gis and rash guards and shorts and belts. What else have a name? T-shirts, hoodies, anything and everything jiu-jitsu related that you can roll in or that you can wear off the mats. They've got it. Great designs, great quality stuff. I keep all my rash guards are made through them right now. My gis that I give to my gym are made through them. Make good quality stuff. I like it. I stand behind it. If you guys want to check them out, go to their website at epicrollbjj.com, and the promo code is Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. If you guys want to check out our longtime sponsor, Charlotte's Web, you can do that at charlottesweb.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. And again, this covers their CBD products, their functional mushroom products, the CBN products they make, which are useful for sleeping. Stuff that I like to use personally, because as you get older and you realize how important recovery is, one of the best things that you have in your recovery tool belt is good sleep. And, good sleep hygiene with a little bit of CBN can be useful. You can check them out at charlottesweb.com. Again, promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. If you would like to support the podcast directly and get access to some exclusive perks, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. When you join up, you get exclusive perks. Like I said before, there's a list of them. Things like different products that we've created or videos we've recorded specifically for you guys that aren't available anywhere else. And then also some other things. And then when you do that, you will then be supporting the podcast that you listen to for a very nominal fee, very nominal price, right? Like, as I said before in the podcast, it's obviously a monthly thing. So if you have commitment issues, might be a bad thing, but it's not too much. Less than a price of an expensive cup of coffee. Also, if you guys want to get my daily email and get access to a ebook and video that I give away called Focus Jiu-Jitsu, you can do so by going to my website at chewjitsu.net/join. The ebook goes into 12 different strategies that you can use to get more focus from your open rolling. You can also watch the video, and I will go through those 12 strategies with you, give you examples of it, the whole deal, and again, all free to you. And then you get my daily email, which could be really useful to you and join the, right now, it's thousands of people. I think it's like total something like 80,000 people have subscribed to receive it, so again, it's pretty cool. I've never thought that, like, when I was starting that thing like 8 years ago, that it would be that many people reading that damn email. So hopefully you guys enjoy it like many of the others do. And again, if you guys have any questions about it, just shoot us a message. But otherwise, check us out at chewjitsu.net/join. Join up. And guys, that's it. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We appreciate you for being here. We'll talk to you next time.